Welcome to Made in Moray, the podcast that focuses on the successes and struggles of local businesses. Let's get started.
My name's G, I'm your host, and today I'm sitting down with Mark Galbraith and Jill Patterson, who are the owners of Plumbing and Renewables Limited. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
First, can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do?
We listen, we then design, and then we survey and install renewable heating systems. The systems provide hot water and heating solutions, really. These are systems that invariably use heat pumps. They would be air source or ground source. Solar thermal systems, so that's tapping into sunlight, hitting panels on a rooftop, and then heating up hot water. And the other one that we still do as well, and more occasionally though, are biomass systems. Biomass though, not stoves, but systems that use sustainably resourced virgin timber, and then whether they be log gasification, so that's just chunks of wood, wood chip boilers, so it's kind of slightly more processed, or pellet boilers.
Yeah, and I think if I was just to put it in one really short sentence, I would just say renewable energy heating systems for your homes and business. That simple sentence, I think, says basically what we do. Obviously, that needs expansion, but...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, on a daily basis, like from when you get up in the morning and you're all excited about getting into work, what is it that you have to do through the day, during the day?
I think for me in the office, I run the office side of the business and I've got two colleagues that work with me. So at this time of year, we do quite a lot of reactive work, but really it's all about, for me, it's about dealing with customers, liaising with customers, helping work through the designs of their systems, talking to them about what they might want, helping provide their contracts, and then really essentially being the liaison between the installer team and the customer. Then I pass over to the installers and it's over to Mark really from there.
Bizarrely as well, I do wake up generally quite excited most days, definitely more than not. And so I'm like a liaison really between Jill and customers, and as much as I can as well, I still like to work on the tools. So do the same sort of work that the guys are doing on the coalface.
And you do a lot of the technicals. You do all the technical surveys, really, or most of them still, and help out with any of the more complex technical issues as well.
Yeah, that's it, really, pretty much in a nutshell.
Who is it that contacts the company and is looking for these services and this information? Is it individuals or is it companies?
I would say we probably have three different streams of people, if you like. We have, customers, just individuals who are either building their house or want to look at renewing their heating system and prefer a renewable technology. We have building companies such as Excel Scotland who will speak to us about different jobs they've got ongoing and would like to engage our services to help them build their properties. And then probably architects as well. Architects are looking to specify certain things for their clients. They come to us as well.
So if I'm a potential client or customer and I come to you, what information do you need from me? What is it that you look for?
I start with the approach and finding out what motivates the person that's approached me.
What are they looking for?
What is it they're... we're trying to match, I guess, what they perceive as being a solution or what they would like the end result to be, and then almost working back the way. So, for example, if I'm interested to find out about things like what system you have first in place. Why are we even sat here discussing it? What is it? An environmental thing? Is it a financial decision you're making, either to save money, possibly even to make money as well? Or is it just something that the system is on its last legs? Your existing system, you need to do something with it. Those are sort of the main criteria, and then after that, so if we're basically on the same page and interested in kind of looking further into it, we'd then start to discuss, well, maybe mention budget from my point of view, as in it does cost potentially quite a lot of money. And then following on from that, do you have any drawings for a house? So new build customers, then drawings are invaluable. We can produce a lot of information just for that so that you can mull over and decide on the way forward.
Yeah. So does a person need to have some kind of plan already in place, or can they start from zero?
Nope, they can start from zero. But really, the initial conversation is a conversation to find out what they know already. They might have an idea about a technology they would like, or as Mark said, they might know what end result they would like, or they might just be phoning up as just, I have no idea what I need, but I'd like something. Can you help? And we try to get to know them a little bit and what motivates them and why they'd like to do this. But they need know nothing about what it is we do or have any plans or and then usually it's a visit from there. Mark will go out and visit, work out what would work best for them, and we put together prices based on their needs.
How do you get the message out to people about the work that you do?
We've been really fortunate in that the message goes out. A lot of the work that we do is word of mouth. So it's that sort of old adage, isn't it? You're only as good as your last install or piece of work. So we work extremely hard to try and maintain the standard that we've currently got.
Most people come to us. Yeah, we are really fortunate as referrals from other people.
It's the best way to be, really. You know, word of mouth is the best publicity.
I think in an area like Moray as well, so many people know each other. Everyone, everything's so interconnected. It's a sort of semi-rural area. I don't think you could be a cowboy here and last a particularly long time.
Are there such things as cowboys here?
Don't know about Moray. There are definitely cowboys in our industry. Not so much around here, thankfully.
No, Murray's is. I definitely think it's a unique area. I mean, we do because we work up in Orkney and some of the outer islands, out on the Western Isles, and across in Aberdeenshire, and occasionally down the Central Belt as well. We work closely with other plumbing firms. I'm really proud of that fact, actually, that we're doing more and more with local plumbing firms
and local businesses,
because I think we can all benefit from the direction that heating and hot water is going in.
Interesting for me is to look at what the inspiration is for the actual business,
for what we do.
For that, and for the beginning of it. Everything starts somewhere.
Yeah, I think for us, we really got into the renewable energy heating systems about 7 or 8 years ago. Before that, Mark's previous life was in the RAF, and then he retrained as a plumber, interested in buildings and how buildings work and a trade that would fit within that. Became a plumber, but then I guess I would say you weren't totally sure what direction you took it in. You wanted to take it in until the renewable energy sort of started to poke his head as a niche that you'd like to explore. And that just sits really well with us.
Well, I think it does in terms of marketing as well, because if you say to somebody plumber, it doesn't really suggest much. Yeah, but if you say plumbing and renewable, it's a much broader spectrum, and it starts to paint this. We are looking not just at heating, but also the environment as well.
I think we started off as a plumbing firm who did some work in renewables. We're now a renewables firm who are also plumbers. Yeah,
the name of the business is actually the wrong way around. But, that's great, having a bit of hindsight, isn't it? To start with, it was moving from a previous career and into plumbing. I knew that I wanted to run my own business. I don't know where that's actually come from, but I guess sort of being master of your own destiny. And in the early days, lots of great visions and bright ideas, not actually realizing, of course, that our business is actually dictated by our customers.
Right.
They're the ones that actually pull the strings. It's I love that classic one. Oh, you work for yourself. That's magic. You can just take day off whenever you like. I've not managed to work that out yet. So I'm obviously getting something wrong somewhere.
Still answering the phone at 2:00 in the morning.
Try not to do too many emails at that time, or at least prep them at that time, but send them out at a normal office hour. So the starting point for me as well was I'm absolutely obsessed with water. We're sat here right now. I'm looking at the swell rolling past outside the window, and that to me says I should be out surfing. Really,
absolutely. It's a beautiful part of the world here, right here. Because I don't think I've said that we're in Burghead right now, which is. I mean, how would you describe Burghead to people who've never been here?
Just a little bit raw around the edges at times, a little bit wild. Got a fierce community spirit.
I think the area here, like Moray, is really it's an undiscovered part of the UK. Like we're really fortunate here. Even the microclimate here is generally pretty good. I know there was a storm last night, but and actually pinpointing Burghead itself. One of the beauties of it is it has like a lot of history. It's still one of the very few small villages that has like a really strong fishing community in it. So it's lovely. You can take a walk to the end of the peninsula as if it were. Harbour's right on the end. It's incredibly well sheltered, and still one of the oldest industries. It's maybe not still thriving, working. But it exists. And like Jill was saying, it's sort of raw around the edges. I think it's because it's untouched in many respects. It's not overdeveloped. It's a peninsula and it juts out into the Moray Firth, and that makes it unique.
A little bit wind blown.
Yes, wind swept.
Swept.
Perhaps.
There we are.
Yeah.
What's it like to have and run the business from here?
I guess we don't know anything else, do we, Marky? This is where we run our business. And originally, when Mark and I got together and I said, no, I'm not going to be involved. And here I am a number of years later, totally entwined with the business.
Takes time.
Yeah. It works well for us. It gives us a good balance of being with the children.
Yep.
We work really close to home. And they've got, and living in a little village, they have got an amazing sense of freedom that they wouldn't get anywhere else.
It would be different if it was in a town like Forres or Elgin, because maybe here you can let them go out and do things.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They can have the run of the place almost, which is brilliant, and not many young kids these days get that opportunity to just open the door and go where they like at a young age.
Yeah. Well, as owners of the business, what is work-life balance like in that sense? How are you able to run the business and keep a family going as well?
I think it's a challenge, shall we say?
Yeah, we discuss it really quite frequently. Are we getting it right? Are we putting too many hours into the business and missing out on family aspects? I do think about it a lot, and sometimes I think we're putting too many hours in. We really are. But I recognise that that's not any different from any other business owner, really. We've all got the same challenge.
In saying that, we're very conscious that, it doesn't affect our family. So at 3 o'clock, my workday stops and the children are picked up until they're in bed and my workday starts again. And then that gives you a bit more freedom, really, to continue on working later if you need. But sure, I'd love a bit more time off, and that's something we'd love to work towards. But it's probably the same for a lot of people.
Can you just stop the work at a certain point in time if you're working close to home? Because I think you have an office near, right?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Is the answer to that? I can hear the phone ringing and it doesn't get picked up past office hours. That's. You just have to make that very conscious decision. We live together, we work together. So we do automatically quite often fall into work chat. But we make a conscious decision at times just to break away from that and not. You just have to be really strict with yourself. Otherwise, it would take over. Yeah,
and we've found to the extent where the booking just a long weekend away somewhere, not at any great expense, but actually just leaving Burghead is often enough to think that you can kind of just down tools and stay at home and have a quiet weekend doesn't really exist. So I guess what we do is we just look forward so many months and then think, well, okay, in the summer it'd be nice to take a week or 10 days. This is what we'll do. We'll go Wales camping or something like that. And then, or maybe just down to the Central Belt for a weekend. And just start always looking forward and thinking, well, okay, Christmas is the one time when we do like to be at home, but beyond that, well, something in Easter, something in summer, something in October, so that we've always got a get out and a break,
a proper break.
Yeah, to look forward to.
Yeah. How are the seasons related to your work? Is there a part of the year in which you're more busy?
Not in terms of installation, not really, because people are building their houses at all different times. They like their heating systems replaced at all different times. On the maintenance and reactive side, the heating season, it starts October and, it runs through to sort of January, February is when you do have a lot of much more reactive maintenance at that time of year. But in terms of installation, it's pretty consistent throughout the year.
This is an interesting area for Jill and I, particularly in business terms, where we feel like a really strong allegiance and bond with practically every customer that we've ever had and still have. So everything that we install, we feel duty bound to look after it if they so wish. And however, the main income from the business, I guess, is the installation side. And I know that's what most of our guys are really kind of set up and in tune with. So although we've been really careful in the products that we've selected to work with, so that the maintenance really is as little as possible, there's still things like, just for warranty purposes, ongoing service annually is highly recommended. And most often all the customers would come back to us in order to do that. And we're really keen on that ongoing service. So that's really like the next avenue of our business. That's one area that we're constantly looking into, and it becomes particularly relevant at this time of year. So that's in progress.
To develop that almost as a separate little arm to the business, so that we can still provide a high level of care and service.
Yeah, and it is a real service, because you're not just selling something to somebody and leaving them with that kind of problem. You're continuing to give them information, to provide updates if it's necessary.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's really important.
No, that's it. And systems will evolve as well over time. The equipment we're currently working with happens to be in vogue, and a lot of it is well proven as well. So, and we're really comfortable with what we fit. But that doesn't stop us from keep looking at the next thing. And we're approached constantly as well by other manufacturers who've got different ideas and products that we hope as well in the very near future we'll see were even greater efficiencies in running. So greater savings for the end user.
How is it keeping up with the progress and development of technology? Because things are moving so fast in the modern world.
How many times have we changed direction in the last few years? It's been crazy, technology driven. As customers have moved, I think heat pumps have been there's a huge expansion in the heat pump market, and they're set to be a huge growth market. So we've had to jump on board with that, obviously, and we got into heat pumps 3 or 4 years ago now. So that was a learning curve for everybody. And then as new technologies come on board, and every time you take on a new manufacturer's product, you're taking on you're not starting from scratch, but each different product has its own anomalies that you have to work with and deal with.
Why are heat pumps taking off now? What is the reason for that?
It's about the decarbonisation of the heating network. So currently in the UK, the main source of energy in people's homes is gas. But up here in Moray, we work in a lot of off-grid areas. So it's oil heating, LPG, and the government want to move into, or are going to have to move into, low-carbon technologies. And heat pumps work with electricity, a small amount of electricity, and it's all about electrification of the heating network.
So how does the heat pump system work?
Maybe this is me. We'll try and keep it really simple, only because it'll hurt my brain if I get too complicated. So the crux of it is, although you're using electricity to drive the heat pump, so for want of a better explanation, just looks like an air conditioning unit at the side of a building.
That's an air source heat pump.
This is an air source heat pump. Yeah, you're right. So just being specific on this particular type. But what it does, it uses electricity and it drives a compressor. And inside this box, whether it be an air source or a ground source heat pump, it uses a refrigeration cycle in there. So it's a cycle that exists in your fridge, in your freezer, that kind of thing. But it's slightly different for the purposes of heating and hot water. Anyway.
Because fridges keep things cold.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
For sure.
We don't want to use that quality of it.
Yeah.
And the main, the sort of the weird part of it is, or the bit that's strange to get your head around, is that we're so used to thinking of water in terms of boiling point and freezing point. So water boils at 100 degrees Celsius and then freezes at 0. Refrigeration, or the refrigerant in the system, boils at a completely different temperature. So it can boil at a very low temperature, which means that we can take low-grade heat, like as in our ambient air. So outside today it's maybe 8 degrees.
Right down to minus 15 or something.
Or below.
Below even, yeah.
And that air is still warm enough to boil a refrigerant. You compress it as well, and then we get out a usable temperature from it. So you're changing state of the refrigerant inside a box, and the net result of that, though, is heat that we're used to. So you can turn that into like 60 to 65 degrees Celsius, and that's what we then use to heat your house or provide hot water.
In terms of why this is energy efficient for people, for every 1 kilowatt of energy or electricity that is required to run the heat pump, you can get between 3 or 4 kilowatts of energy to heat your home. So it's between 3 and 400% efficient.
So the numbers sound a bit wacky. Maybe another easy bit to throw in here as well is a house that's maybe run on electric storage heating or just an electric heater, one that you can just buy from any shop, plug in, £30 worth. It uses 1 kilowatt of electricity and produces 1 kilowatt of heat.
Okay.
So you get this 1-to-1 ratio. So your 15 or 17 pence per kilowatt that you pay, then you've got a 1 kilowatt heater. That's the 1 kilowatt of heat out that you get. A heat pump, use 1 kilowatt of electricity, you'll get an absolute minimum of 2.5 kilowatts of heat out. But as Jill said, it could be 3, it could be 4, depending on the system and the product.
It blows my mind that you could take cold air and turn it into warmth.
Me too.
I'm just
shouldn't say that, should I?
Promise it works. It does work.
It's one of those
with ground source, you're taking the heat from the ground.
Yeah. Well, it's counterintuitive almost to how we think, right? We're like, oh, the air is cold. It's cold. You can't do anything with it because it's cold. But it's not like that. You can actually transform it.
So it's a new way of thinking about heating for a lot of people, and it does take a while for people to get their heads around it and to trust it. We have a number of customers come to us who are thinking about a heat pump but aren't really sure. They're not sure if it'll be trustworthy. They're not sure this is actually going to work. And it does.
So where do they learn about it then?
From us.
From us, and well, but a great deal of a number of customers though are like the majority.
They start researching.
They research, and they research and they research and they research, and then they'll hopefully not go into too many forums where you start getting kind of like a non-professional input, and
but they can get information from manufacturers or from Home Energy Scotland. Sort of the government-backed bodies. There's a lot of information out there now about renewable energy heating products. As
if I'm 5 years old, which I feel like I am in this conversation because I don't really understand a lot of the technologies. Explain to me how you get heat out of the ground into a house. It's
pretty much the same way as you do with the air.
Okay.
Yeah. So pipes, effectively, if you have a large expanse or area, you would dig trenches.
Okay.
So excavator comes in and you dig a trench approximately 1.2 to 1.5 meters deep.
Okay.
You lay a pipe in the trench, just a plastic pipe.
Right.
Might be about 40 millimeters or so in diameter. And I'll give you some really ballpark figures here, and so that I may stand corrected on the exact numbers for this. Each house needs its own calculation, so I'm just giving you an idea. But and Jill, back me up if I'm just slightly out. So 10 kilowatts of heat, for example, you might have 2 loops of pipe going into the ground. So it's basically we just get a reel of pipe, we dig a trench, and then we lay this pipe in the ground. And we keep one end of it where the plant's going to be. We'd run it all the way out through a field and then back to the other end. and it might be,
Right.
and then connect the two ends together into a manifold,
Okay.
and then that also gets connected into the heat pump. So they
Right.
effectively
You're extracting the heat from the ground.
But it's not geothermal. It's really
Heat
the sun.
passes into the collector pipe. And
Wow.
it doesn't need to be, it's like the air temperature outside, it doesn't need to be warm. You get this constant temperature, because as you go down into the ground, you get a constant temperature. So our air temperature changes, obviously, on a daily basis, hourly basis here. But the temperature, once you start going down below a metre and a half deep, it's constant.
Even if there's like snow or frost on the ground?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Another type of ground source collector is when you bore a hole deep down into the ground between 100 and 200 metres and you use a pipe to collect from there. And that is a constant temperature.
When I went to school, they had pictures of the world, and it was like the core of the world was like really hot or kind of.
Yeah, let's core into there and get the magma. Wow.
Yeah. So is that kind of idea that the Earth is, the further down you go, the warmer it is, or
it's almost, you're tapping into a slightly different technology there. So we see things like Iceland, Greenland, where they use the geothermal heat. So there are the what's the terminology for it when you hot springs?
Okay,
yeah. So they must be part of the globe where there's a very, very thin crust on the Earth at that point, and effectively they're tapping into the warmth from within. Whereas here, that's not the case. We're just going into bedrock.
Okay.
So although it sounds deep to you and I, it sounds deep to me at like 100 plus meters. In actual fact, it's more just the stability of that material.
So this heat is like always there, and anybody can tap into it and use it?
Yes. Yeah, they could. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, this is the thing. I guess there are things that sort of prohibit that. Their expense sometimes. Other things as well. I mean, although we've been talking about renewables here, like we don't ever move away or dispute the fact that also natural gas in the UK is still relatively cheap. So the majority of our houses and businesses are heated by natural gas. So that's not going to change rapidly. Amazingly, we're seen as pioneers, but we're not really. This technology's existed for decades.
It's huge, and it's much. Heat pumps are quite a much larger business over most of Europe. Huge business. And that's partly because electricity prices are cheaper there, and partly because gas prices are higher. The technology is just a bit more advanced, and we've got really poor housing stock in the UK as well.
Is it a kind of technology that, because it sounds very sustainable and environmentally friendly, because you're just using what is there naturally?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you're still using some electricity. And then obviously there'll be a carbon footprint with creating the technology. There are refrigerants involved as well. So there's going to be some impact. But yes, absolutely, it's far more sustainable than continually burning fossil fuels.
Okay.
The other biggie, of course, as well is I don't know in-depth detail of the way our government works. Nobody probably does. But Scotland's very pro-renewables, and the energy companies have tapped into this as well. So,
but there is a huge shift. We've made these net emissions targets, or the government have made these, and we're trying to abide by them. Unless we have a massive sea change away from gas, or from natural gas, towards these technologies, we're definitely not going to achieve that goal. And there are some regulations coming into force whereby definitely from 2025, new builds will not be allowed to connect to the natural gas network. So other technologies are going to have to take over. It's a bit like the electrification of cars.
Okay.
We're going to have no choice. That is the way it's going. We're going to be moving away from fossil fuels.
So is there a law that will come into existence that says that
building
people-
standards, building regulation,
Okay.
you'll just not, once you, with new build properties, you just won't get your building passed if you saying I'd like to connect to the gas grid. You won't be able to build unless you're using a renewable energy technology.
So basically what you're doing is the future.
Yes.
We're no different to the shop in Lossiemouth, selling the products on the sustainable front. We're no different to Tesla, at the absolute other end of the spectrum, just trying very, very hard to push out already existing technology. It's not like we design any of it. We're really just filling a gap in the market. It's there's a desperate shortage of companies doing what we do.
And there's a huge shortage of installers, and a huge shortage of people who understand and know the technology. So we'll start to see changes in the way apprenticeships are rolled out as well, so that training is going to be there from the start, and this stuff will just become commonplace. Like once upon a time, nobody had a central heating system at all, and the market had to change incredibly quickly then to start rolling out gas boilers, oil boilers, etc. So now you wouldn't move into a property now unless it had a heating system, but that we've only been doing that for the last 5 decades, less for many places. So this is just another change.
Are you a company that could train people or train other companies how this works?
Well, we do already. Yeah, we currently have one apprentice, but even as new team members join us, that it's invariably they're not going to have the same level of training or experience or knowledge that we have as the existing members of the team. So in fact, that's exactly the process we're going through right now. So we spend a great deal of time going on training courses. I would imagine probably an awful lot more than your average plumbing firm. So that's how we get over it. We have accreditations, hoops that we always have to jump through. We're audited annually on this to make sure that we're adhering to all the right regulations for all the equipment and the knowledge that we pass out to potential customers. So the training is always ongoing. Always ongoing.
There are quite a number of barriers to companies looking to get into this kind of work. And that's why it's worked for Mark and I, because he can get over the technological hoops, if you like, and I can get through the administrative hoops. In order to access the different funding streams that are available to help with putting in these technologies, you need to have a certain accreditation, an MCS, microgeneration certification scheme. And for companies to get into that scheme, I have to admit it was quite painful. It's not now we're part of the scheme, but there are a good number of hoops to jump through. And a lot of businesses, if they're doing well enough, they're just not interested because there's too much, there's too many challenges. So expect to see some changes to start making it easier for other companies to get on board with these technologies as well.
Every business, when it's growing, has struggles and problems. So what have been yours?
Well, you've just hit on the first one to start with, just by discussing the MCS, so this certification scheme. So in order, when we really became particularly interested and very focused on renewables as the way forward for us, the first hurdle was to overcome the certification. So there were some companies who were present you with a large financial package. You pay them a lot, and then they'll help you. They'll hold your hand through the system. So that's extremely off-putting. Plus, we then wouldn't know really how the system works. What are we signing up to here? So we took a different approach and pushed that aside, and then went in just from the bottom of the ladder, picked up the books, and started to read about it, learn about it, and then applied. And slowly picking off one technology at a time to gain accreditation. So it's definitely a hurdle, and I see it as the industries who sell the equipment know that this is a hurdle. I believe that behind the scenes they're working very hard to overcome this. And I can see why similar sized businesses to us and with plumbing backgrounds, which you definitely need for what we're doing, it just makes it incredibly tricky. So we're really fortunate in the fact that I've got Jill and her team on one side, and then myself and the guys fitting on the other side. And so for the size of our business, we've got a very healthy, if not overly sized, administrative side to the business. So it's definitely burdensome, no question. And that's probably why you see so few companies doing what we're doing.
Do you think that the education that we have in place is adequate to train people with the knowledge and skills necessary to work in this industry?
Not currently. I believe that is changing and will be changing. But as apprenticeships stand currently, most of the focus is still on oil and gas for plumbers and heating engineers. I believe and understand that's going to change. We're always training. I don't think there's barely a month goes by that there isn't somebody doing a training course, taking on board a new technology or upskilling.
Where do you get trained?
All over the UK, really.
Varies sometimes abroad as well, for that matter. So a couple of us have been over to factories in Austria. I know they picked them up as a factory trip. Sweden looks like next year as well. And then some of them are much closer to home. So the Mitsubishi Ecodan air source heat pumps that we fit most commonly, constructed in Livingston. And the training centre's down there. Wow. So it's a trip down, normally 2-day visits. And all of us, by the end of your sort of completed training, you'd have 3 separate visits down there of a couple of days.
But generally speaking, sadly it's not local. It's it's a trip at least to the Central Belt of Scotland to get necessary training on different products. A lot of manufacturers training primarily, and then BPEC courses in relevant technologies if suitable. But trying to find the courses, there are not that many people running them. So an awful lot's going to have to change in the UK and in Scotland to make training a lot more available to people.
And something to make plumbing more exciting, I think, because if I think back to my own experiences in school, it wasn't a road that I ever thought I would go down, but it's absolutely necessary. It's one of those skills which is necessary for life, extremely helpful for people in society, and it's just not something that's on most...
And if you were to say to somebody, what would you like to, would you like to be a heating engineer? It just doesn't sound exciting. Would you like to work with renewable energy? It's totally different, isn't it? People have a completely different connection to that word renewable, and yet we're talking about the same stuff. Our guys are highly skilled heating engineers. They've just specialised in renewable energy.
How much do you think that people are looking for a company to work with, and how much are they looking to invest in, say, the individuals that run the company?
I think we work with an awful lot of our customers buy into us and what we do as a company and how we approach things. Particularly, it's difficult to say with one-off customers when they're phoning up. Particularly, I would say builders, architects. They like us. They like our outlook. They like our attitude. And I think that goes a long way. Like our willingness to assist, to help, to try.
Yeah, particularly as everything that we do is perceived still as being relatively new and a bit out there, it's probably more relevant buying into us as almost as individuals than it is I'm only just surmising that this is the case, that they're buying into us rather than the business. And
a lot of the headaches that people have when they're thinking about specifying heating systems for new builds, or even in their retrofits in their houses, they're changing things. We can take away a lot of the headaches for builders, architects, homeowners. We've been through all the hoops. We've jumped through them all. We know the path. We know how to make this stuff work, where to get the finance, all that stuff. So it's just a relief for people that actually somebody can help them through that process.
Yeah, in fact, if anything, what it then does is it pulls together a lot of the research that they've done, I would imagine. So you've got all these different aspects to a potential job, and then you're a bit like, what on earth do I do next? And although you can contact Home Energy Scotland, and they're extremely helpful and very positive, they're all about driving this type of technology forward. It's probably when you speak to Jill or myself that you maybe get more of a comfort blanket knowing that this company
find somebody who can install
the
stuff and knows what they're talking about.
If you look back, say, 10 years ago, could you imagine the point that you would be at right now doing this?
We could look back 10 weeks.
No, it changed really quickly.
Honestly, it sounds weird. I mean, because, what we're doing, we're plumbing and we're fitting heating systems. So what? But honestly, behind the scenes, it's unbelievable how quickly it changes. We're affected by so many different things. But this must be the same as any other business. For example, we've had referendum after referendum. The next thing is we're waiting on a new government to sit, and it's just like, what on earth is going to happen next? We haven't got a clue.
No, 10 years ago, I was working with a local charity in Elgin and really enjoying my work there in youth work. No, I had no thoughts that this is what
I was plumbing bathrooms primarily and the odd house, really.
That's right.
And although we had our ear to the ground on renewables, that at that point they were, although we were using like a renewable technology, and you could sort of loosely include like a basic biomass, stove type system in that, then that was sort of the approach at that time. But in no way would we have thought that we'd be almost fully converted to like 95% heat pumps.
Yeah. Wow. But 5 years ago, we would have told you that we would have definitely been in the renewable energy industry. I couldn't have told you that the majority of our work would have been heat pumps at that point. So I can tell you now that in 5 years' time, we will be very focused on renewable energy, and there will be a huge amount of heat pumps in that. How many other technologies will we also be doing? I'm not sure. It depends where the market takes us. We know the general direction we're going in, but it's changing so quickly.
What would be a perfect future for you if you were to envision where you'd like to be in 10 years?
No, very, very similar to what we're doing at the moment.
I just throw in an impossible question every now and then just to...
No, I mean, we're laughing about it, but that impossible question is, where do you envisage yourself being in 10 years' time? I mean, I would imagine the answers to so many of these questions must be so similar to many businesses, and that is, man, if I could be retired in 10 years' time, that would be great.
Absolutely.
The reality of that is probably somewhat different, and actually, truth be known as well, I don't ever see myself retiring. It's not. We talk about it loosely. Yes, we'll probably not be working as hard as we are just now, or feel that working as hard as we are just now. But I'm never going to stop working. I met a lady this week, and she's just moving into her, probably, I don't know how many new build houses she's had, very local, and she's worked all her days. And her comment was, I want to die with my boots on.
Yeah.
And so, and I thought, that's exactly it. Thank you very much. That's what I'll do.
Well, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that retirement, if it's not organized in the right way, is really negative for people, because when they stop working, they lose their motivation and they lose their focus.
I think you're absolutely right. Most people see this with unknown family members. It's... I think that'll be very visible. Yes. Right.
What was the question?
No, it was about in moving,
future.
Perception of retirement in the future.
Future. Yeah.
Okay. For sure, at some point we'll retire, but I don't think we'll ever stop working, will we?
Good. Oh, well, that was unscripted, and you just said exactly the same as me. No, I don't.
There we are.
Yeah.
Good to know, right?
I think we both thrive in a bit of hard work.
Or pressure, sometimes we call it as well. So it's overcoming obstacles, whatever they
solutions,
may be.
Not problems.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, absolutely. Every problem is an opportunity.
Yes, exactly
that. Yeah. And it must be the wiring or something of the way we're made up. Some people would think you're just absolutely raving
nuts.
Mad. But at the same time, it's actually what motivates us, keeps us going, keeps you alive.
Well, it gives you purpose, right?
Yeah.
To do things, to help people. Who wants to stop helping people if you're helping people?
Well, this is a great deal of satisfaction. This is where the satisfaction comes in what we do. It's the underlying motivation for it all. Whilst we truly believe this is the way forward. Like, we're really settled in doing what we're doing and driving on the sort of the renewables front. But underlying that, it's this knowing what a customer's expectation is, managing it, and then seeing that being fulfilled. And then if we're fortunate enough as well, you get a positive review back from them. Sometimes it's written, which is excellent, and then we pass that to our team as well. And it's a bit like, yes, that was a good job.
Yeah, and we're just really fortunate. We've got a brilliant team, a really great team in the office and on the tools as well. And they're all really positive, solution focused, motivated. They're all out for the same outcomes as we are. So it's brilliant. Yep.
How do you build a good team?
We look for personality traits, I think. That's maybe a bit too overly complicated, making it like that. But it's actually, we're looking for people who are positive.
It's as much about attitude as it is about aptitude.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So if somebody was to come to us without necessarily the skill set needed, but they're going to be quick to learn, they want to learn, they're just going to have a positive attitude and get on with it, then that's 80% of the battle done.
Yeah, definitely attitude. That is the underlying factor. And also, and just hungry, not scared of being outside their comfort zone. Every day, sounds cheesy, is a school day, but it really is.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Agreed.
What is it that you enjoy most about the work that you do?
I think really we've almost covered that in that it's doing a good job, seeing people satisfied, being happy that the products that we are installing, our renewable energy products, feel like we're doing our little bit for the environment and making people happy.
Yeah, there's a great deal of satisfaction from it's like the after part of it all. So the install's done, and the feedback might be something like, "Wow, we're amazed that our whole house is kind of is back to normal. It's warm, so we might have floors up, we might have holes in the wall in order to put pipework in, like just sort of true raw plumbing type stuff, and it can be a fair old upheaval." And probably really quite unnerving for a lot of people. You're not used to that type of work being done on your property, whether it be home or business. And then at the end of it, it all comes back together, and you've got heating that you'd never had before, and just satisfied. Yes,
brilliant.
Yeah.
It makes me think that you're something like a doctor for a house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Going in there and performing the operations necessary to make everything function.
Stitching them back up. And
that's
sending them on their merry way. No, that's it. And I think genuinely, okay, we're all out. We're all out to make a living. Everybody has to make some money, and profit is not a dirty word. We do need to make a decent living, but genuinely, it's not for us. It really isn't about trying to make the most money that we can at all. It's about trying to do a good job, treating our staff well, creating a good environment for them.
There were quite a few stories recently about the removal of incentives that were in place for businesses. Can you tell us how that affected the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are financial incentives that are there to help homeowners install renewable energy technologies, and incentives are still there. There were the feed-in tariffs for solar panels that we weren't involved with, but local businesses such as AES will have felt that when tariffs were pulled, and a lot of businesses just went bust. Incentives have changed, however, in 2014 by putting in a biomass boiler in your home as a homeowner, you could actually make quite a lot of money. So there were teams of installers that came up from Central Belt and companies, sales guys, selling these pieces of equipment, installing stuff, walking away, getting the money. Homeowner was getting some money. They've all gone bust, and homeowners left with a bit of equipment. Might not be working by now.
Yeah, the incentive side of things for both commercial and domestic users, and it's been a bit of a double-edged sword in a way. Britain has been at the forefront of this. That no other nation in the world has such a thing as the renewable heat incentive. Nobody. So the incentives that exist are unique to this country or nation. Now, it took some pretty clever and sharp business people really to realise from the onset there's an absolute money spinner here. And that's unfortunately left a bit of a black mark, on the industry in a way, because if from a business perspective, if you were then just to purchase the equipment as cheaply as you could, install it as quickly as you could, and then turn the incentive into your business pocket, then you could stand to make an awful lot of money very quickly. So that type of business did go on. If anything now, the incentives have been reduced.
We heard stories of double glazed salesmen turning their hands to selling heating systems. They just didn't potentially have the knowledge or the commitment to.
Yeah, but the good thing is though, it's just been a process. It's something that's worked its natural way, and we're now years down the line of the incentives. The incentives, as the uptake was so great initially in some types of products or types of heating systems, then what it did is there were some natural targets in there that then reduced the rate that was then available to the next customers that were willing to take up these types of systems. So the rate has been reducing over years, to the point, for example, where you've mentioned about the photovoltaics, for example. So that's the panels, multiple panels on a roof that produce electricity. We don't do these incidentally. We work just with systems that are hydraulic, like plumbing related. But anyway, these panels produce electricity, and you're right, in April this year, the tariff finished for those. However, the uptake has been really, really successful. It's worked. The thing about renewable heat incentive is the word incentive. It's exactly that. And it's not there to be a money-making scheme, although lots of people will have done that. Is to incentivize these technologies being taken up. And we would argue that that's actually worked. And now we're in a case where things are starting to even out. The incentive pretty much will cover a typical air source heat pump installation in a retrofit, like an existing property.
It might not quite cover it, but it's a really good. It'll help cover the difference in cost potentially of replacing your oil boiler or going for a heat pump. So the incentive is incentivized. It does what it says in the tin. It helps you cover that difference in cost. Incentivize you to move over to low carbon heat.
And then you couple that up with the ongoing running costs, so the cost of running your oil boiler versus a renewable type of heating system, ongoing running costs, which will be less, then it's that part of the equation that's the bit that we're really driving more than anything else. So it's this ability to start preparing for the future, what uses the least amount of energy to give us the heat and hot water that we require.
But the renewable heat incentive is set to close to new applicants in March 2021. And we're not sure yet. I would say about 80% of our customers apply for this incentive. And following that incentive, we're not sure what, if anything, from the government will be forthcoming. So we're not sure what, at the moment, that's a carrot situation. We're not sure if they'll get out with a stick situation or what's going to happen. So we don't really know. So that's likely to have a significant impact in the short term on our business.
Does that mean that people should get involved now?
Yesterday, yes. It's definitely a point of closure at the moment, and they've made that us aware that there's end of March in 2021. So we're definitely working towards that date, and then at that point there, our knowledge base will be yet another year on. The equipment as well may come down in cost. I don't see that being
maybe not in the next year, but following
in due course. And as Jill said, I think that although there's this carrot being dangled at the end of the stick, I think what will happen is the legislation will change such that they'll snip the string, the carrot will disappear, and you'll be beaten with the stick into making the appropriate change.
Terrible.
Yeah, but it's going to be that effect.
Financial incentive there, but potentially not anything like there is currently.
If you think of what's happened with diesel cars and even what's happening in Glasgow, for example, everything's emission driven, and it's likely that that's the sort of route that they'll take. So oil and gas boilers have emissions. the heat pumps we're fitting don't, effectively. And of course, you're then relying on the much bigger network because you're still relying on electricity. So the argument then goes up a level. So it then becomes like a national interest. How do we produce that electricity?
It sounds to me like you are leaders in your field, not just in this region, but across the country.
No, there are a good number of businesses doing what we are doing. Probably not so much in areas that are really urbanised, that are still heavily reliant on the gas network. Interestingly, we don't really do much work in Elgin. Elgin's on gas.
Okay.
We tend to do work in more outlying areas that are off gas. That's where we're seeing the changes. And that's where the growth in renewable installers have grown, has definitely been in the off gas areas. But that will change over time. And
already is changing, so that very large developments that you cannot miss as you leave Forres, Elgin, Mistodloch, all the way through Nairn and Inverness. So multiple large house builders or quantities of houses here. A great deal of those properties, if they're not already hybrid, that's as in a mixture of gas and a heat pump, then nearly all of the next phase will be heat pump alone.
So all the national house builders will be moving over to heat pumps.
Which is good for you guys.
Well, they don't necessarily need us per se, but they're upskilling a lot of. Yeah. But again, it just comes back down to the skill levels and upskilling as well.
I mean, this is the thing. There's work here for everybody. That this is it's a very, very large scale issue, and actually we're really fond of the type of work that we do. Love working with individual customers, builders, kind of a moderate size. Local architects and looking to find solutions for them. So when it comes to maybe 300 houses, then if you're to have the right team trained by a different company in order to conduct, a repetition, it's like project, the same over repeat. We tend to find ourselves a lot more bespoke.
Not that we ever really anything out, obviously, but this bespoke stuff is probably more where we specialise.
What is it that you find difficult about the job that you do, or that you don't like so much?
Is there anything that I don't particularly like?
Maybe you enjoy everything. Well, some people do.
The weird thing is that this comes down to the wiring within me and probably Jill as well, is that weirdly, like when the chips are down, even when something's not really quite going the way you'd planned it, then that's probably where I really sort of move into my element. Don't think that at the time, obviously. You might feel the pressure mounting on yourself to come up with a solution for it, for a particular problem. But that's, and in some ways, that's when you feel sort of most alive. That's when you feel that you're really working and using your brain cells to come up with a solution. So I don't, there's nothing, I don't start any day thinking, oh man, I've got to work with this particular technology or house today. Maybe a long time ago, I might have had a sort of glimpse of that thought, but now I know that there's always an answer. So I don't, just any negative thoughts, I push them away, and that's how I approach it. So there are things that you kind of, I might think, oh man, the weather's looking shocking. I'm going to be in a trench today, rolling some pipe out to a field. But actually, I'm generally pretty grateful. I feel really lucky to be in the position we're in.
Swap you to be in that trench, and you can be in the office for a change.
And the sheer variety as well.
And sometimes in the office we can be really quite overloaded. A lot of inquiries, etc. at the moment. And actually, when we get a day like that, or when I find that stuff is getting a bit repetitive, I mainly find myself thinking and working out, okay, where do we go from here? Do who do I need to train next to help with this side of the business? Where are we going from here, rather than just getting caught up in because some of it's like anything we do in life. We do the same things every day. We get up every day and brush our teeth and have our breakfast and all the rest. So sometimes there are things that are repetitive and can be a bit monotonous. But then I think, okay, how do I make this process better? How do I change this system? And I think that keeps me motivated, because there are times, I don't like filing the paperwork, sure. Try and think about the bigger picture.
When people call up, what kinds of questions are they asking?
you'll get most of the calls initially. So
lots, many,
all sorts of directions. It almost depends on what approach they've taken. So we were saying earlier that a lot of our business is word of mouth. So actually, we're really fortunate. Let's say a potential customer comes from Neil Grant at Grant & Geoghegan, the architects. He would actually have done an awful lot of preparation in advance. He already has an air source heat pump fitted by us. So he's aware of how it works. He can incorporate it into design of and I'm picking just on a new build house here as an example. So if we then end up in a conversation, we're grateful. He passes on our number, contact details. They phone us, and then at that point we might discuss. They might be interested in the incentive side of things. They might be interested in the interest-free loan that you can get through Home Energy Scotland. There might be questions that are technically based, as in, is this really going to work? Or can I, maybe could I go and look at somebody else's or speak to them? Or
I guess I get
it from, varied.
Yeah, I get it from people who phone me up and they know exactly what they would like. They're all well prepared, well researched. They know what they like. Right down to somebody phoning me up and saying, I think I'd like to do something with my heating, but I've no idea what.
Or I've been told to phone you.
Or I've been told that you guys might be able to help. Yeah. What can we do? Whenever we get people phoning up, which is regularly still, can you help us with our oil boiler or gas boiler? And I have to just gently say, I'm really sorry, it's renewable energy now. That's where our focus is.
And we try and recommend another local business instead, where it's still taking care of that type of work.
What advice would you give to young people who maybe are interested in getting involved in businesses that are positive towards the environment?
Go for it. Don't hesitate for a second.
It's the way we're moving. It's the way we're rolling. Being involved in fossil fuels feels like yesterday.
Yeah, all the normal cliches. Sticking at school, do the best that you can, and that doesn't mean that you have to be a straight A student. Like we said, that when it comes down to business and hiring people, it's attitude. It's not straightforward aptitude. So it's what motivates you, and if it's attitude and positivity, then I would be delighted if some young person marched into our office, short of breaking down the door, stood there, told us who they are, what they do, what they would like to do, and they're prepared to give it a shot. Give me a trial, that kind of thing. Give me a week, give me a fortnight, or my holidays are coming up. Can I come and work for you? Then with that sort of attitude, you'd almost certainly say yes straight away. Yeah, and give them a shot. And then see where it goes from there.
I think also there's a lot of great benefit to young people if they volunteer somewhere as well, to get the experience and to understand.
Absolutely. I think an awful lot of young people have been given an awful lot materially and just think that comes out of nowhere. Work ethic is a big thing.
It might be nice to see as well that just how people graft behind the scenes.
We work incredibly hard, Mark and I, but we don't expect all of our staff to work as hard as we do. But for their 40 hours a week that they're here, we do expect them to be committed to their work. We don't expect them to take it home at night, but when they're back up in the morning and out and the tools are back in the office, yes, we do expect commitment. So work ethic is a big thing as well.
But even just how mentally, it can be exhausting. So if you're in the office team, that side of things, and it can be exhausting mentally and physically when you're installing. It's like a jigsaw. You mentioned about being like a kind of doctor of a house, as if it were, or a building, or that's exactly what it's like. Is you're constantly thinking of solutions. So fitting a system into any type of building to give you like the heating and hot water is it's like a 3D puzzle. Yeah, that's all it is. And you need to know certain elements about plumbing. You need to know certain elements about electricity and renewables, and also how a property is built. And you work with all those things, put them together, and come up with a solution.
We've had this attitude in schools for such a long time now that if you're not academic, you're not going anywhere. and we've been pushing and pushing to put people into universities, into academic courses. But what we're desperately short of is really bright guys who are really good with their hands as well. We're very fortunate in our team that all our guys are really sharp and quick on the uptake and really clever.
I do wonder as well sometimes, particularly in trades, it's only because it's something that I know and we've been in and around for a long time now, is that it's almost like they're not held in a high enough pedestal in a way. There are some trade-related people or people who are doing like what are perceived as being really hands-on tasks, but they have a huge amount of kind of mental input to come up with the solution. Mm-hmm. It's not just a case. If it were so easy to do, then everything that we would do would be DIY. Uh-huh. You know, that's pretty much my argument. So if it's that easy, off you go. That's fine. But you'll find that most plumbing things that are taken on a DIY level end up in some form of disaster. Hopefully just minor. Mm-hmm. And then at that point you think, actually, we really should speak to somebody or get somebody to finish this off or sort it out. And then at the end of it, the solution is still the same: heating, hot water.
Do you ever find that you're going in to repair other people's mistakes?
Not too often, actually.
Less and less so. Thankfully we're busy enough with our own installs so our focus really lies on what we do, and it also offers us a clean slate. The solution from our point of view would be sometimes as extreme as get rid and let's do this properly from the start. Yeah.
There's a couple of little questions left, not much, because I want to be respectful of your time. And so, what could the community do more to support your work and your industry?
Pass on the good word. If you happen to know a customer that's happy with the work we've done, pass it on. That would be great. And as a sort of wider community type thing, I know that there are more and more projects starting to develop and groups getting together to think, how can we better our community? What can we do?
Berghead and Cummington and Hopeman are hoping to develop or start a development trust looking at possible uses of energy to help develop communities.
Yeah, and so
I don't know that that'll necessarily develop our business in any way. However, it's just a good thing for renewable energy in general, and we're happy to input on that.
Yeah, it helps to get people thinking about how they can improve things as well.
Absolutely.
We're just happy to talk about it. I'm more than happy to field any question at all, anything to do with it. And if I don't know an answer, then I'll tell you I don't know the answer, and then I'll find out if it's something that needs to be answered. So, and just doing that alone, if there are more people going around like us, just spreading the word, not selling, but just spreading the word, then that would be good for us.
What is it like working together?
Awesome.
We don't really know any different now, do we, Marky? It's been ages. It seems to work for us. We have different skill sets, and your mum says I've got the patience of a saint.
Oh, you do.
But maybe you have with me.
And I've got hearing that can just switch off and on, you see. So I think they call it selective hearing. So it works perfectly. It's harmonious every day.
No, it definitely would work for every couple, but pretty much.
Underlying though, it's the same. It's like raising a family or just living as a couple together. If underlying the sort of principles with the way that you live and
our values
and your
same.
Values are the same, then it hits the nail in the head. You're done. And ours remarkably are somehow aligned, so we get on well. Really, we just talk things through. It's communication. That's all it is. And this is the bit that I'm hugely relying on Jill on actually and the office staff is the communication as customer base continues to increase. It's keeping up with that communication. Sometimes you don't have an answer to a question straight away, but even just the fact that you've acknowledged that there's an issue with something or a question to be answered, then that's often enough at that point until you can get there to resolve it.
Very sadly though, pillow talk does sometimes end up talking about work, doesn't it? Yeah, sometimes it is a wee bit hard to get away from, but we do make an effort.
If you could change one thing...
About Mark? That he'd finished my bathroom? No, not that. no, sorry.
Yeah, there's 3 radiators missing in this house for about 3 years. And so if somebody would please phone and fix those radiators.
If somebody could come out and fix the plumbing in my own house, that'd be really good. No, start again.
If anyone out there knows any plumbing or renewable companies,
yes, please get in touch.
I was going to ask about the business, actually.
No, go for it.
If you could change one thing right now about the way the business works or is organised, what would you change?
Oh, we'd increase the number of processes that we've still not put in place. So it's not like a massive change to anything, but it's regularising some of the things that we already do.
I'd magically know what next staff member I needed in the office, and it'd already be in place.
Yeah, that's it. It's sort of a management issue really, more than anything else. But there's nothing that's so immediate that's pressing. These are all, and they're not niceties. These are still necessities, but not ones that are need to be done tomorrow. But yeah, processes sticks with me is the main thing. The more things that we process and then the easier it'll become for every staff member.
Your house is on fire. You can only grab one thing.
My house or my office?
They're close to each other, right?
Because if it was my house, like the answer would be the kids. If it was my office, the answer would be the laptop.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure what to choose now. The idea is that everyone's got out safely, okay? But it's not like which kid would you grab?
Yeah. Right. Which one do you love the most?
Yeah, this is cruel. We ask them that question all the time.
Which parent would you take? Yeah. Yes. No, house is on fire. Everybody gets out safely. You've only got time to pick up one thing on the way out the door. Something that means something to you or maybe is useful. What do you pick up?
We don't have anything. I don't. Honestly, I walk away. I've seen the next door neighbour's house, part of it go on fire. Yeah. And it was quite a shock. It was a really big shock.
Yeah.
And so having seen that firsthand, and it was just a garage fire, but it was intense. So make no mistake now so I have thought about this. Okay. And I wouldn't bother taking a thing. I'd just get out. That's it.
As long as everyone's safe.
Yeah, you're out.
Stuff doesn't
There's nothing.
matter.
There's no value to anything like any material thing that we have.
Business-wise, I wouldn't even need a laptop. Everything's on the cloud, so that still goes on.
Yeah, everything that's important just exists elsewhere. There is nothing.
Wow. I want to be really respectful of your time this morning. I want to say thank you very much for inviting me into your home. Thank you very much for sharing a wealth of information with me. I want to wish your business a great success in the future. And if people want to know more about what it is that you do, where should they go?
They can either call us or they can look at our website, new website to be launched soon. Just contact us and we'll provide you with any information you would like.
Facebook page?
And of course,
yes,
Facebook page.
Yes, thank you.
Super. Thank you very much again.
No, absolutely, our pleasure. Thank you. And good luck to your business too.
Made in Moray is a product of the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. Book a free online personal or professional development consultation today. What are you waiting for?